Now the king comes in. Active, active, active. Every single piece is active. Now king c3. So we've gone from g8 to f8 to e7 to d6, c7, b6, a5, b4, c3. What a journey from the king. Welcome to the FIDE Chess World Cup. In this video, I'm going to cover the game between Aryan Tari versus Magnus Carlsen. Aryan Tari, 22 years old, Norwegian number 2, and we have Magnus, the world champion. 30 years old. Tari has white, Carlsen has black. Tari has to win because he lost yesterday. Let's see what happened. e4, c5, knight f3, e6, d4. Take, take. Knight c6, knight c3, and a6. We have the Khan Sicilian, or the Taimanov, or the Polsen. I think they're all the same. Anyway, we get this e6, a6 structure where black is controlling the light squares. White now plays bishop f4. Normally, you can play bishop e3 or bishop e2. But bishop f4 play. The point is, if black is careless, white can actually get e5 in to get an advantage. You can't play knight f6 because e5. That's the whole point of bishop f4. Knight goes in the middle, take, take, and white is already a bit better. Black's structure is messed up. So after bishop f4, black plays d6. Now it looks like Tari's just wasted a move because e5 is coming next, but he's going for a structural change. This is a big change already in the position, and it's already move 6. Take, take. Notice black controls all those squares. Queen d2. White has knight, queen, bishop out, ready to castle. Black, it looks like black's just moved all his pawns. e5, and now bishop g5. A huge decision from Tari. Knight f6 played. I was wondering how Tari, he lost this game so easily. And maybe one idea was he didn't actually gain a pawn break. So bishop g5, even though that was played in the game, I just want to have a look at bishop g3. The point is you want to make f4 work so then you can actually get something going in this game. Knight f6, let's say castle, bishop e7, and now f4. If you play f4 too early, black actually has this annoying move, knight h5. So you might actually prepare it with bishop e2. And then after castle, now we go f4. Queen out to a5 or queen c7. And then we got a few options. Maybe you go f5. Then bishop h4. You can even come and take this because white has a lot of pressure on d6. So that's one option. It's because, yeah, I mean, in the game after bishop g5, no pawn break for white. So how can he actually get his pieces in the game? Knight f6, castle, h6, keep the bishop away, and this is the problem I was talking about. If the bishop is on g3, we can help out with f4, but it's not, it's on h4, and this makes a huge difference. Bishop e6. The problem is you can't go f4 because you just take it. Take, take, and now g5, winning a piece. Bishop e6, bishop e2, a5. The point is, so then this pawn is no longer attacked. King b1, rook b8. Queen b6 coming up next. King in the corner, queen b6. With king a1, you're giving yourself the option to play b3 or even rook b1. Because b3, now queen b4. Black is getting his pieces in the game. Carlsen, he's not worried about capturing because you just capture back. One option was actually to reroute the knight, so then you can go knight c5 and queen b4. Just another way to play. But doubling pawns is fine. Queen b4, f3, bishop e7. Knight a4, offering a queen trade, castle. Bishop takes f6. And now you have to trade queens. Or else, oops, you lose your h6 pawn. So no, you got to trade queens, and then we get this structural change. And black has all the cards. It's because he's got 2 key pawn breaks to free his position. d5 and f5. g4, Tari plans to stop that, but the g pawn is actually a target. I mean, it's incredible, the pawn play from Carlsen in this game. d5, rook d1, and now h5. So even though white's king is open on the g file, black is the one attacking on that side of the board. h3, take, take, king g7. King b2, take, take. So central tension has been resolved. Every single square covered by the 2 bishops. Wow, this knight can't get back in the game so easily. Rook h8, planning to come in on either h4, h3 or h2. Black has a wonderful endgame. Rook d3, rook in, attack the bishop, bishop f3, it's got to defend both pawns, rook f2, cool move. Clearing the H file, so then Carlsen can get his other rook in the game. Rook d2, offering a trade, take, king up. Because after rook h2, king up again. Wow. Just literally just marching it up and then coming in. But knight c3. Rook d8 first, and now knight e2. Wow, I wonder. Hang on a minute, why not king f4? There must be a reason. There must be a reason why I didn't do that. King f4. Well, I can't see it at the moment, so I'm going to turn on the engine just to check. Because king f4, you're attacking the bishop and you're going to pick up that pawn. Okay, let me have a think before I turn on the engine. If bishop d1, you're not actually doing this. You're not actually threatening it, I mean, because of rook h4. No, hang on, f5. Yikes. Okay, let's check that again, and then let's see what I did wrong. Oh, maybe it's just rook h3, actually. You defend from the side. Rook h3, you can't do this because knight e2 check. Maybe that's it, yeah. Because if king g5, now you got rook g3. Alright, cool. Let me turn on the engine. Let's check. It's always good to check yourself when you've got a question. Play through the moves and then you check it with the engine. King f4. Rook h3. Great. That's exactly it. Great. And if bishop takes g4, I expect this to be losing. Great. Fantastic. Check. Yeah, king here, you lose the bishop. And if king back, then rook g3 wins the bishop. Yeah, exactly. f5. f5 doesn't change anything. Good. So after knight c3, Carlsen needs to change his mind. Rook d8, knight e2. Can't come in now. a4, king c3, rook b8, king b2, a3 check, king c1. So white's just waiting. Rook d8, check, back, knight g3. So it's cool that Tari's got his knight back in the game. Bishop b4, controlling so many dark squares. Knight f5, bishop d2 check, king b1, bishop c3. Totally boxing the king in. Check, king back, rook h2, rook d7. Attack the knight, check. And a huge decision for Carlsen to give up the bishop pair. Take. But he's got full control. Is there a way for Carlsen to win this? Let's see. Rook d4, king c1. King f8, king b1, king e7. So we're going on a journey. The king castled. It went to g5. Realised he had to come back. Now it's gone to e7. Rook g2. Rook back. Stopping white coming in. Not giving him any chance. King c1. c5. Another move to control a dark square. Bishop e2. Check. Rook h8. Rook h1 is mate, so rook back. Rook h4. Attack the pawn. Bishop d3. I mean, just compare the bishops. That's just a big pawn. That is really... It's just one move away from mate if black can get the rook in. King d6. Rook d1. King c7. King b6. Rook g4. King a5. King b4. Rook f4. Rook g4. Rook h4. Rook g1. Bishop d4. Attack the rook. Bishop e3 and bishop d2. Really cool flashy move here. You can't take the bishop because there's mate on the back. Now king c3. So we've gone from g8 to f8 to e7 to d6. c7, b6, a5, b4, c3. What a journey from the king. Right into the white position. Rook f3. King d4. Now all the way right into the center board. And after rook f1, really cool flashy move here. Can you see it? How can black continue? Pause the video now or let the timer run. How does black continue? The move is c4. Wow, what a move. Bishop takes c4 was played, but if you take with a pawn, you just come back with a rook, and then it's mate. Mate on b8. That's it, and you can't stop it. Doesn't matter what white does. Check. King in the corner, only move, and bishop c3 is mate. What a lovely mating net. Take the pawn, but the problem is you lose the central pawn. It doesn't matter that black loses his pawn. I mean, that pawn was doing nothing anyway. King d4. And we compare the quality of the passed pawns. Black's pawn is just so much faster than white's. Also, white's king is always in a mating net. c3 check. Finally, giving the king some room to breathe. So then it doesn't get mated on the back. Take, check, king back. King c2. Yeah, the reason there's a dubious symbol is because black has this absolutely brilliant move, bishop e3. So fancy. I don't think it's necessary at all. If you take the bishop, king d2, and now there's no good way to stop mate. King d4, king c2, e4. You attack the bishop, doesn't matter. I attack the rook, rook f2, move the bishop back, bishop c4, rook h1, coming round the back, bishop f1, rook g1. And white can't move. Rook e2, he actually goes for this fancy trick coming up. If rook f4, king e5, and then you can just start pushing. White cannot move. So Tari, he now goes for rook e2 with this trap. Pretty cool trap, actually. Looks like it just hangs the bishop, which it does. Now you go, check. And you can't take, because chess, chess is so cruel, chess is so tough. If you take the rook, believe it or not, white is stalemated all of a sudden. How tough is chess? You just cannot take the rook. So rook takes e4 check, and king c5. No stalemate tricks. Black is just a bishop up, and that's how Carlsen won. A crushing victory from Magnus. So let's quickly summarize this game. e4 c5, we have the Sicilian, and we get this first critical moment, bishop f4, and after d6, the structure completely changes. Take, take, queen d2, e5, and I'm saying you should go back to g3 with f4 as a pawn break, but bishop g5, we get this, chase it away, f4 is very difficult now, a5, rook b8, queen b6, starting an attack, very easy moves, bishop e7, queen trade offered, after this, take, 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 and we get this endgame with the pawn breaks. g4, it stops, f5, but black gets h5 in. Really cool pawn break. Take, take. Now the king comes in. Now the rook comes in. Offering a rook trade. Take, take. King up. King up. Knight c3. Cool move. Cool defense from Tari. Can't come in now. Get the d file. Check. Boxing the king in. Has to go back. And a huge decision coming up. Check. And here. Black loses the bishop pair, but he has total control. In. King now goes for a walk. Controlling all the dark squares. Every move from black is active. Rook h8 threatens mate. Rook h4 attacks the pawn. Now the king comes in. Active, active, active. Every single piece is active. King goes for a walk. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. King comes in very shortly now. King in. Fancy move, bishop d2 in. And right in the center. c4, that's the break he found. Get a better passed pawn. Run it down. Give the king some room, but nothing to say here. And final trick here with a stalemate, but you don't fall for it. So it's just, Carlsen, he just made it look so smooth. Magnus, he is through to the next round of the World Cup. He ended up beating Aryan Tari 2-0. Here's YouTube's suggestion for what to watch next, but you might not like their option. If not, you might like Magnus Carlsen beats Alireza Firouzja in 29 seconds. This is a bullet video. However, if you don't like that option, you might like this one. Checkmate Carlsen in 30 seconds. This is also a bullet video, but Daniil from the USA beats Magnus in a bullet game. Thanks for watching.